Oh, hello there. Yes, well, slightly different camera angle. Bit of bunting ahoy. Really likes a bit of bunting. Get the bunting out, kids. That's my tip. Summer's here. Maybe not. Anyway, yesterday there was one of those kind of bits on GBNews that just, you think, really? Isn't that just a bit cheap, guys? Anyway, Patrick Christie invited on Steve Eddington, ex of the Daily Telegraph, ex of almost every single nasty right-wing think tank you can think of. Anyway, to talk about some internal messaging systems in the BBC that they didn't like, okay, which they called hyper-woke, okay, which is an intriguing notion. I mean, because I'm bearing in mind that these people can't really define what woke means. I don't know what they mean by hyper-woke, okay, exactly how hyper does something have to be for, before it stops being hyper or becomes hyper? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, they were discussing the fact that various people in the BBC who message each other are left wing. Yes, it's as shocking as that. It's a kind of James S's gets emailed something that he doesn't like, and it's a huge expose because he went undercover. Anyway, believe it or not, Steve has actually become their USA correspondent, just in time for telling you how great Trump is. But I thought it was worthwhile doing the same thing about Steve, because he has a rather dubious past in terms of the Legatum Institute and various other very, very iffy right-wing think tanks. But if you just sort of look at his social media posts, you do get a kind of extreme right-wing, one might say hyper right-wing viewpoint from him. For example, here's somebody sort of quoting him. Every white person in the UK should read his articles. Great guy. Why? Why does every white person need to read them? I think that might speak of some vile thing, really, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, it's worthwhile watching this because it's where he talks about being a journalist, and he basically says, well, anybody can do it. Yeah, it's really not hard. It's a load of old tosh, according to him. And, just sort of briefly sort of leafing through his Twitter feed, you get, if you recall, those nasty Palestinians demonstrating old versus new Britain, says Steve. This was not an accident. I wonder what kind of thing he means by that. Well, obviously tips neatly into your vile great replacement theory stuff, doesn't it? Yes, and deliberately quoting a lefty there because, that's what he does. He has a go at the lefties. Means he's in gainful employment as, a journalist, apparently. But probably my favourite one from recently, if you like, a few months ago, is this one. There is plenty of evidence here of far-left revolutionary activists using anti-Semitic slogans. Yeah, river to sea stuff, we were aware of that. Where is the evidence of the so-called far-right extremists? Where are the swastikas, call for revolution, etc.? I am speaking to the chap who is down there with the British flag, who's in no way far right. Most of these people are patriotic football or army lads. Yes, indeed. But of course, what Steve is doing here is the classic thing whereby he pretends that to be a nasty right-winger, you have to have a shaved head and, be wearing a lot of sort of Fred Perry stuff, a bit like I do. Which obviously doesn't make you right-wing. I mean, you can be other forms of right-wingers, can't you, Steve? You can be a bearded guy in a sort of fairly thick, chunky tie. And you can go and work for GBNews. And you don't have to look in a particular way. But it's incredibly disingenuous what these vile people will do, especially in terms of what they regard as being legitimate discussion of serious issues. Now, if you want to have a serious journalistic viewpoint about the BBC, then do so, but don't just have cheap shots. I mean, after all, it's too easy to do, like I've just shown. And yet I don't get paid the amount that he does, and I don't get the platform that he does, because, I'm hyper woke. Again, any ideas? I've none. Yeah, hyper. Is it bigger than mega? Or is it lesser than gross? I don't really know. Neither does Steve, but it doesn't really matter because, hey, he's a journalist. Have a lovely day.